What is the best Pokemon in every generation? It's an outstanding question, and it's one that I'm going to answer right now. I'm going to be talking about competitive singles here. I will go through every generation picking one representative for each, with the best and most powerful performance across the entire series. In Generation 1, the answer is extremely obvious. The most powerful Pokemon here is Mewtwo. Mewtwo was of course by far the most powerful thing of all time in its debut game, with an absolute chasm between it and everything else. And Mewtwo is the only Generation 1 Pokemon that remains ranked in Ubers in Gen 9. This was the original broken Pokemon, but you might be surprised to learn that it has actually fallen off quite a bit in viability in modern Ubers. Psychic was once the best typing in the whole game, but that's not the case today, with the rise of Dark, Ghost, and Bug type attacks that threaten Mewtwo's existence at every angle. More powerful special attackers have been released, power creep increases in every generation, and Mewtwo has kind of been left behind. It is still viable, but it is no longer the universe-defining threat it was back in the early generations. But of the entire Gen 1 Pokédex, this is undeniably the most powerful one. In Generation 2, the best Pokemon in the game, across the whole series, would have to be Ho-Oh. In fact, I did a whole video about this recently, about Ho-Oh's excellence in every single game. Ho-Oh has been an extremely blessed Pokemon over the years. It started out very strong, even before abilities existed in the game, and even in Gens 3 and 4 when its only ability was Pressure. But in Gen 5, Ho-Oh was bestowed with the new ability Regenerator, which was such a significant buff that it allowed Ho-Oh to even survive its ×4 rock weakness for multiple games in a row, when for most Pokemon that is a death sentence. Ho-Oh's incredible combination of special bulk and offensive firepower, as well as reliable sustain with Regenerator, are an absolute recipe for success. Ho-Oh even received Defog in Generation 6, enhancing its value as a utility Pokemon. It has one of the best signature moves in the game, Sacred Fire, a physical fire type attack with a 50% burn chance attached. It also benefited greatly from the addition of Heavy Duty Boots to the game in Gen 8, an item that grants a complete immunity to hazards. In Generation 9, Ho-Oh is in fact better than ever, ranked S tier alongside Miraidon, the top dog of the metagame. Ho-Oh is incredibly consistent and powerful, and happens to be an incredible check to many other popular legendaries in the format. Many believe that Ho-Oh is in fact the most consistently powerful legendary in the whole series, and I can't really disagree with that statement. Generation 3 introduced one of the most impactful legendary duos in the history of the franchise, Kyogre and Groudon, the weather-setting legendaries. These went on to age incredibly well, as Setting Sun and Rain on the field are timeless abilities that are always useful and in fact team-defining. But the better of these two over the years would probably have to be Kyogre. That is, if you're not factoring in their primal forms and you're just talking about their base forms. Kyogre is one of the most excellent legendaries in all of Pokemon. Consistently excellent in Ubers, largely thanks to its premier ability Drizzle, which sets rain on the field. In Generations 3, 4, and 5, weather setting abilities were permanent, so that made Kyogre an absolute top tier threat. But even after weather was nerfed in Gen 6 to no longer be permanent from abilities, Kyogre maintained its relevance. In Generation 9, Kyogre remains one of the most powerful Pokemon in the game. Not only is it great for its rain setting, it also just has incredible stats, a Mono Water typing which you really cannot go wrong with, an outstanding move pool, and even access to the move Water Spout, being one of the most powerful nukes in the game's history. The only time Kyogre ever dipped in viability in Ubers was almost by brute force when Groudon Primal hit the scene, a Pokemon that creates harsh sunlight on the field, granting an immunity to water. If it weren't for that, Kyogre would have thrived yet again, as it always does, and as soon as the primal forms were removed in Gen 8, Kyogre rose right back to the top. The most powerful Pokemon in Generation 4 is probably one that will not surprise anybody. It is absolutely Arceus, the god of all Pokemon. Arceus is one of my favorite Pokemon ever, without a doubt the most powerful mythical in the whole series, and maybe the most versatile Pokemon in the whole series. Arceus has the ability Multi-Type, which allows it to change into different types depending on which plate item it is holding. By default, Arceus is a normal type, but it can be any type in the entire game just by holding the right plate. And that offers an outstanding amount of variety and metagame adaptation. Arceus also has the signature move Judgment, which changes its type depending on what plate you are holding, meaning Arceus always has a solid form of special stab. The most famous way to use Arceus is with its default normal type form and the combination of Swords Dance and Extreme Speed. Extreme Speed is a very powerful priority normal type attack with 80 power, well above average for a priority move, and this is an incredibly impactful and effective physical sweeper in every Uber's format ever. Since Arceus has an item slot free in its default normal type form, you can throw on a Lumberry to give you some insurance against incoming status moves, Leftovers if you want some sustain, Silk Scarf if you just want more damage on Extreme Speed, and there are many item options really on this set. Arceus has outstanding physical coverage too, with Shadow Claw and Earthquake being perfectly complementary to Extreme Speed. Since Arceus has 120 base in all of its stats, it can be absolutely any role you want of it. It can be an offensive threat like the Extreme Speed set. It can be a defensive wall with Recover and Toxic and Defog. It can be anything in between with a bit of attack investment, a bit of bulk investment. It can be a special attacker with Calm Mind and Judgment and all of its fantastic special attacking options. It has mixed attacking sets. It has status ailments like Will-O-Wisp. Arceus can adapt to any metagame since it can be any type, run all of these different options, and be a perfect response to whatever the top Pokemon of any given metagame is. A great example is Arceus Water and Ground rising to defeat Groudon Primal in Generation 6 and 7. In Gen 9, Arceus is perhaps better than ever, receiving even more moveset options like Dragon Dance and Body Press, and even stored power. Arceus is eternal. I'm sure this will always be good in Ubers for the rest of human history. And isn't it fitting of the god of all Pokemon to be so eternally viable and consistently great? Now, the best Pokemon in Gen 5 is actually kind of a hard question. Gen 5 is known for having some of the worst box legendaries in the series. Reshiram and Zekrom were pretty underwhelming compared to even things like Dialga and Palkia, but especially Kyogre and Groudon. There were also the Kyurem fusions, Kyurem Black and White. Back in Gen 5, Kyurem Black was actually an OU ranked Pokemon, one of the few times a box legendary has ever fallen down to OU. But in an amazing turn of events, in the modern day and factoring in the whole series, I think that actually the strongest Gen 5 legendary would be Kyurem Black. Kyurem Black has been buffed significantly in the past couple of games to the point where in Generation 9 currently, Kyurem Black is the highest rated and most viable Gen 5 legendary, or Gen 5 Pokemon in general, coming in at a respectable B+ ranking, outdoing Zekrom and even Kyurem White. Kyurem Black is an insane looking legendary at a glance. It probably looks really broken. It has 170 base attack, really good bulk, high speed, and a Dragon Ice typing, which is pretty bad defensively but excellent offensively. The problem with Kyurem Black though has always been the fact that it lacked physical ice stab. It has this incredible attack stat but no physical ice attack to use it with, except for Freeze Shock, which is a pretty bad attack that requires you to charge. But this all changed in Generation 8 when Kyurem Black received the new option of Icicle Spear. For its whole existence, it didn't have a physical ice-type attack to abuse with that massive attack stat, but now they gave it one. They gave it Icicle Spear, and even though this move is a little bit RNG dependent because it's a multi-hit move that hits 2 to 5 times, this was still good enough to push Kyurem Black to unprecedented power levels. And it certainly helped that in the very same generation they granted Kyurem Black with Dragon Dance, one of the most powerful and effective boosting moves in the whole game. That was enough to make Kyurem Black an Uber's level threat in Gen 8, when previously it was a pretty underpowered box legendary compared to others. But in Generation 9, this guy got even better with the release of an all-new held item, the Loaded Dice. The Loaded Dice is a new item in Gen 9 that benefits multi-hit moves. it causes multi-hit moves to always hit at least 4 times, making the odds more in your favor. This makes Kieran Black's Icicle Spear an actual really powerful and consistent form of damage, and it also helps that you have Scale Shot at your disposal too, another multi-hit move. This time it's a dragon type attack. So this set right here with Dragon Dance, Fusion Bolt, Icicle Spear, and Scale Shot is a pretty outstanding boost sweeper in Generation 9, even though you have the defensive shortcomings of Dragon Ice typing. If you manage one turn of setup, you can easily clean up a game, even in the very high power level of Gen 9 Ubers. I think for just how significantly these 2 small moveset additions buffed Kieran Black and how powerful it is in Gen 9, which I think is a great environment to test a guy's power. Gen 9 Ubers is a crazy format. I would give the title of Best Gen 5 Pokemon to Kieran Black. A bit of a underdog success story, wouldn't you say? Kind of. In Generation 6, they released the most powerful Pokemon in the entire history of the franchise, and that is Mega Rayquaza. Mega Rayquaza is an insane Pokemon. This guy has such overtuned stats, it's unbelievable, with 180 attack and special attack, and 115 speed. It has the ability Delta Stream, which overwrites other weather effects and also removes all of your weaknesses from your flying typing, so you're no longer weak to rock and ice anymore, which is incredible defensively. And Mega Rayquaza has all the options on the planet, an insanely vast move pool with physical special attacks and even Dragon Dance to boost itself up. And in an absurd turn of events, Mega Rayquaza is the only Mega form in the whole game that is able to hold an item. If you're a true Pokemon fan, you'll know that Mega Rayquaza has a special organ inside of its body that is able to digest meteors in the solar system or something, so that Mega Rayquaza has raw energy inside of it, allowing it to Mega Evolve without the help of a Mega Stone. So it's very logical and cromulent stuff that he can do that. It's not broken, it's actually completely acceptable and lore accurate. I suppose this is a bit dubious to count as a Gen 6 Pokemon though. It is a Mega Evolution of Rayquaza, who is a Gen 3 Pokemon, so I guess it kind of counts. It's a pretty different Pokemon. But if you want to be a stickler about these things and you don't count this as a unique Gen 6 Pokemon, then the next best option would definitely be Xerneas, the box legendary of Pokemon X. Xerneas is another incredibly powerful new Pokemon released in Gen 6 that was the first ever Fairy type legendary in the generation that introduced the Fairy type to the series. Xerneas has a pretty modest looking stat distribution among some legendaries, but the excellence of mono Fairy typing, plus the ability Fairy Aura, which grants a boost in power to Fairy type damage, are an incredible benefit. And what makes Xerneas really great is its access to the move Geomancy, which is a boosting move that raises your special attack, special defense, and speed by 2. That's a significant boost for a single turn. That's a lot of stats. It does require you to charge, but with a simple Power Herb, which gets consumed when you click a charge move and allows that charge move to be executed in 1 turn, you can Geomancy instantly and sweep a whole game with ease by just clicking Moonblast. It's one of the most powerful special boost sweepers we have ever seen, and I would definitely give it a shout out for perhaps tied top Gen 6 Pokemon if you don't count Mega Rayquaza. The powerful Pokemon of Gen 7 are quite interesting. You have the box legendaries, of course. Of the original box legendaries, Lunala is by far the superior one, with its ability Shadow Shield, giving it an incredible safety net against incoming hits. This ability has the same effect as Multiscale, allowing you to take halved damage from incoming hits if you're at full HP. Even though Lunala has a very exploitable Psychic Ghost typing, that ability grants it more than enough defensive backbone, and its incredible signature move Moongeist Beam is also excellent. A 100 power Ghost type special attack that ignores the effects of abilities completely. Solgaleo, on the other hand, is a little bit of an underwhelming box legendary. It's decent, it's a Psychic Steel type with an ability that is equivalent to Clear Body, making it immune to stat stage changes. This is way worse than Shadow Shield, but it's better than nothing. And this guy has a physically leaning identity with options like Stealth Rock and its signature move Sunsteel Strike, which is a 100 power steel type physical attack that ignores the effects of abilities. A great move, but a fairly weak legendary for Pokemon Sun. The Gen 7 games took a page out of Gen 5's book, with their subsequent box legendaries being fusions of each of the previous ones with Necrozma. Necrozma Dawnwings is the far inferior of the two, as it has that Psychic Ghost typing, but it no longer has Shadow Shield, which is the whole thing keeping it together. Without Shadow Shield, the typing is just atrocious, and your times for weakness to Dark and Ghost are incredibly damning. Necrozma Duskmane, on the other hand, would be the most powerful of all Gen 7 Pokemon, for certain. Necrozma Duskmane is an incredible Pokemon, especially in Gen 7, where it could use a Z move to transform into Ultra Necrozma, who is extremely powerful. But even just in its base form, it is a straight-up direct improvement of Solgaleo with the far superior ability Prism Armor, reducing incoming damage from super effective attacks. This Pokemon's defensive stats are far better than that of Solgaleo, and the ability enhances that even further. Necrozma Duskmane is a versatile Pokemon with Morning Sun and Stealth Rock defensive sets. It can abuse Trick Room to get reverse sweeps off on teams. It is very good at using Weakness Policy because of its ability to tank super effective hits, and with Trick Room or even Rock Polish to raise its speed, it can turn that into a reversal sweep. Necrozma Duskmane was a top Pokemon in Gen 7 Ubers, and even with Z moves removed from the game in Gen 8, removing the option to evolve into Necrozma Ultra, Necrozma Duskmane remained a top Pokemon in Gen 8, and it's still incredibly powerful in Gen 9 Ubers. And Necrozma Duskmane is such a solid Pokemon all around that I'm sure it will stand the test of time in later generations too. Now, I know that just moments ago I said that Mega Rayquaza was the most powerful Pokemon in history, and most would still agree with me on that. Most would say that's true. But in Generation 8, a serious new contender for that title hit the scene, and that was Zacian Crown. Zacian Crown is a Pokemon that is far too perfect. They gave this guy absolutely everything. I'm still not even totally sure why they did this. They gave it a Fairy Steel typing, which is just flawless type combination. An unbelievable combination of immunities, resistances, and even offensive stab. It's just far too powerful. The stats are through the roof to an extent that is not okay. You have 148 base speed, which is just ludicrous. It's ludicrous. 170 base attack. You even have good bulk. There's no flaws on this thing. And it has the ability Intrepid Sword, which grants a permanent attack boost, as if 170 base attack was not high enough. The only downside to this is that you have to hold the item Rusted Sword. So Mega Rayquaza has Zacian Crown beat in the sense that it can hold a different item. That's the only real thing keeping Zacian Crown from being the most powerful thing in existence. At least they gave it one flaw, if you could even consider it that. You all know about Zacian Crown. I've talked about Zacian Crown far too many times in my videos, and I'm declaring that this will be the final time I describe why Zacian Crown is powerful, and why he has high stats and a perfect typing and a perfect ability and a perfect everything. The next time Zacian Crown comes up in a video, I will simply put an image of this dog on the screen with the following text, and that'll be it. That's all you'll get in the future. And finally, in Gen 9, the two box legendaries of this game are some of the most powerful the franchise has ever seen. They're of course Miraidon and Miraidon, and they're pretty close in power level. Miraidon is a dragon fighting type Pokemon, which is a scarcely seen type combo and a very good one offensively. It has excellent stats, with very high attack and speed and respectable bulk. The ability Orichalcum Pulse is truly outstanding. It sets Sun on the field, and multiplies Miraidon's attack stat by 1.3, repeating of course. So if base 135 wasn't enough, you get an attack boost just by switching onto the field and having your ability take effect. Miraidon's move pool is outstanding, with U-Turn, an option that a lot of these offensive dragon-type legendaries do not get, and it's an incredibly powerful option. Flare Blitz for sun-boosted damage, you've got great stab options. Miraidon can run a Swords Dance set with Scale Shot and Loaded dice. It can also just run a Choice Scarf or Choice Band set. And then there's Miraidon, the special attacking box legendary of Gen 9. Miraidon is extremely similar stats to Miraidon, but with a 135 special attack instead of attack. Miraidon has the ability Hadron Engine, which sets electric terrain on the field and multiplies Miraidon's special attack stat by 1.3 repeating. This is one of the most powerful special attackers ever. It might be the most powerful special attacker in the whole series. This Pokemon's crazy. It has the signature move Electro Drift, which is just 100 power, 100 accuracy. It even has a damage boost if it is super effective, which it often is. Miraidon even has Overheat as complementary coverage to hit Steel types, which are trying to come in against Dragon moves. This is outstanding against Iron Treads. And between the two, I think that Miraidon would be the more powerful one. Miraidon was so overwhelmingly strong that it needed some sort of hard counter on your team to be able to deal with it and not lose instantly. Usually that was something like Blissey or Tinglu or Clodsire, a very, very hard special wall. And even then, Miraidon can even power through those. Choice Specs Draco Meteor can chip down Tinglu over time. And Blissey can actually lose 1v1 to Miraidon if it has a Calm Mind set. Calm Mind is another option on this because it has the move Parabolic Charge, which is a draining electric type attack. So Blissey to beat this had to Terrestrialize Ground, which is a lot to ask. Blissey not beating a special attacker, I think, is the greatest indicator of brokenness that I've ever heard. Miraidon was eventually banned from Ubers. It was that overwhelmingly strong. So I think that Miraidon is the clear answer for best and most powerful Gen 9 Pokemon. It is interesting looking back at all the generations and seeing their most powerful threats. It is very clear that over time they are really amping up the power creep. I mean, box legendaries are supposed to be powerful, but with Pokemon like Mega Rayquaza and Zacian Crowned, and even the Rhydons, the Miraidon and Koraidon, it's getting into a point where these Pokemon have everything. They have speed and bulk and power and brute force and everything. What do you think the most powerful Pokemon of Gen 10 will look like? I almost shudder to imagine such a thing, but we will have to face it soon enough, won't we? I just hope it's not another very powerful dog, okay? I'm done with those. I'm finished with those. Who was your favorite of these earth-shattering forces in the Pokemon universe? I'm fond of Ho-Oh. What about you? Let me know down below in the comments, and thank you for watching.